The divisive Eighth Amendment campaign may have ended when 2/3 of the public voted for repeal, but when the legislation to legalise abortion was discussed in the Dáil this week, it was clear the issue is still raw in some parties.
723,632 people voted no in the abortion referendum. That's higher than the total vote for Fine Gael. That's higher than the total vote for Fianna Fáil. It's higher than the total combined vote for Sinn Féin, Labour, AAA, People for Profit and the Social Democrats and the Green Party combined.
That deputy does not reflect the Sinn Féin position on this. Just to have the record completely correct and clarified on that, our policy was clearly to see the removal of the Eighth Amendment, and now we want to see the legislation passing in a timely manner.
I strongly supported the right to life of every unborn child, and I still do. However, I stated clearly after the result of the referendum that I would not obstruct or oppose the passage of the legislation through the Dáil. I will engage constructively through all the stages.
I said that, look, I suppose I have to separate my personal view from the legislative responsibilities, but I'm afraid I don't think I can. This is born out, quite frankly, of fear based on previous experience and the amount of people I feared this would become, the contraceptive of choice for people.
Those words came in for criticism from the Health Minister, who warned against the use of certain language as the legislation goes through the Oireachtas.
Now, these sort of views are offensive, but they're also ignorant. They also show a lack of understanding as to the mind, the thought process, the very difficult decision that a woman goes through before accessing termination.
Those comments were made by the Health Minister at the end of the second stage of the debate on the legislation here in the Dáil last Thursday. On Tuesday, TDs will vote whether or not to move the bill to committee stage, where it's expected a lot of amendments are going to be discussed. Simon Harris hasn't apologised for trying to get the legislation quickly through the Oireachtas, because he says that since the referendum, almost 2,000 women have either procured abortion pills online or sought terminations abroad. So he's written to the Health Committee to examine the bill as quickly as possible, even if that means sitting during the October recess. Pro-life deputies are amongst those preparing amendments. This week there was a call from one for another referendum over the issue of abortion services being paid for by taxpayers.
Just for the general public to be afforded the respect to put forward their views. We know that a recent survey carried out by Amárach clearly showed that 60% of taxpayers were opposed to funding abortion services.
Doctors who object to their involvement in terminations are ramping up their campaign on the basis of conscientious objection.
The government and the minister need to slow down and really look at this, because the reality is that there are hundreds of doctors, hundreds of GPs around the country who hold the same view as my own, that this bill does not allow a doctor true clinical autonomy, does not allow a doctor to make the best decision for both patients who are in front of him or her. And if he and the government continue to force this issue, hundreds of GPs will be forced out of their job, and as I say, it will become a general election issue.
As preparation for the introduction of clinical services continue under Dr. Peter Boylan, the authority which grants companies licences to distribute and market medicines here has revealed under Freedom of Information that one applicant has sought to sell medicinal abortion pills when the service is introduced. And the Minister remains confident that those services will be in place early next year.
I think Peter, working with the medical colleges, working with the HSE, will ensure that services can be in place for the new year. I believe good progress has been made. Yes, it's going to be challenging, but isn't it about time we challenge ourselves as a country in this area?
But the legislation needs to get through the Oireachtas first, and committee stage will just be a stepping stone to report stage before it enters the Seanad. All of this will need to be done in a timely manner if the Minister wants to make that January deadline.